My beloved child, pause here for a moment. Do not rush past these words, because what you are about to hear was meant to reach you before your heart made peace with the wrong explanation. Something has shifted in the unseen. A truth connected to you has reached the person whose soul has been quietly tied to yours, and the moment they learned it, something inside them broke open. They are hurt, but not for the reason you might think. They are not hurt because you betrayed them. They are not hurt because you stopped caring. They are hurt because they have finally discovered how much you carried alone, how deeply you suffered without speaking, and how many times they misunderstood your silence. Stay with this message, because the truth they learned has changed the way they see every moment between you. A conversation that once seemed ordinary now feels different to them. A memory they once dismissed has returned with painful clarity. The look in your eyes that they failed to understand, the distance you created when you were trying to protect yourself, the words you could not bring yourself to say, all of it has begun to make sense. And now they are sitting with a realization that they cannot escape. They thought you were strong enough not to be affected. They thought your calmness meant you had moved on. They thought your silence meant you did not care as deeply as they did. But now they know the truth. Your silence was not emptiness. It was survival. Your distance was not rejection. It was the last shield around a heart that had already endured more than anyone knew. Your strength was not proof that you felt nothing. It was proof that you had learned how to keep breathing while carrying pain no one could see. And when your soulmate learned this, they did not know what to do with the weight of it. At first, they denied it. They told themselves there must be another explanation. They replayed what they had heard again and again, searching for some detail that would make it less painful. But the more they thought about it, the more every piece of your story aligned. The missed signs. The sudden changes in your energy. The moments when you wanted to speak but chose to smile instead. The times you disappeared emotionally because staying present required more strength than you had left. They finally realized that while they were wondering why you had changed, you were wondering whether anyone would ever care enough to notice. This is why their heart is hurting now. It is not only because they discovered your pain. It is because they recognized the role their misunderstanding played in it. They remembered the times they judged you too quickly. They remembered the assumptions they made when you could not explain yourself. They remembered moments when you needed reassurance, but they gave you distance. They remembered when you were waiting for one honest question, "Are you really okay?" And instead, they let pride create silence between you. Your soulmate is not simply feeling sadness. They are facing regret. And regret has a way of bringing old memories back with new meaning. They can hear your voice differently now. They can remember the slight pause before you said, "I'm fine." They can see the way your smile faded when you thought no one was looking. They can remember how you tried to make them feel secure even when your own heart felt uncertain. They can remember the effort you made while receiving very little proof that your effort was seen. Something within them keeps asking, "How did I not know?" But heaven knows why. You became skilled at hiding what hurt you. You learned to protect others from the weight of what you were feeling. You carried your sadness quietly because you feared that speaking honestly would make you seem difficult, needy, or too much. You gave understanding to people who rarely stopped to understand you. You forgave before anyone truly apologized. You made excuses for behavior that left you questioning your worth. And somewhere along the way, you began believing that love meant enduring confusion without asking for clarity. But that was never the truth. Love was not created to make you disappear inside yourself. Love was not created to teach you that your needs are burdens. Love was not created to leave you begging silently for the basic tenderness you freely gave to others. The pain you carried was not evidence that you were weak. It was evidence that you remained open even after life gave you many reasons to close. Your soulmate has now learned something about you that they were never prepared to face. You did not walk away because your love was small. You stepped back because your love had become too painful to carry alone. That truth has entered their heart like a light they cannot turn off. They now understand that every time you chose silence, you were hoping they would notice what your words could not explain. Every time you created distance, part of you was waiting to see whether they would come closer. Every time you appeared detached, you were secretly fighting the urge to reveal how much their presence mattered. You wanted them to choose you without being forced. You wanted them to recognize your value before the fear of losing you made it obvious. You wanted their care to be genuine, not a reaction to your absence. And now they know. They know that you waited longer than they realized. They know you gave more chances than they deserved. They know you saw potential in them even when their actions gave you reasons to doubt. They know there were nights when you questioned yourself because they could not give you the clarity your heart needed. This realization has not brought them peace. It has brought them face to face with the version of themselves they do not want to be. They are asking difficult questions now. Why did they allow fear to speak louder than love? Why did they protect their pride while your heart was left unprotected? Why did they assume there would always be more time? Why did they believe you would remain available while they slowly decided what you already knew? The answers are not easy. Part of them was afraid of the depth of the connection. Part of them felt unworthy of the love they sensed from you. Part of them believed that if they stayed emotionally guarded, they did not understand that walls do not only block pain. Walls also block tenderness, truth, and the very love the soul has been praying to receive. Your soulmate thought distance would keep them safe. Instead, it created the very loss they feared. But there is more to what they learned, and this is where the message becomes deeper. Someone revealed to them that you defended them when they were not present. You protected their name in a room where it would have been easy to expose their mistakes. You had the opportunity to speak from anger, yet you chose restraint. You could have made others see them as the villain, but you refused to turn your pain into revenge. They did not know this. They believed that when things became difficult, you probably spoke about them with bitterness. They assumed you had shared every painful detail. But the truth reached them. Even while you were hurt, you protected what was once sacred between you. That truth wounded them in a different way. Because now they understand that your love remained honorable even when your heart was breaking. They remember the version of the story they told themselves. They believed you were cold. They believed you had forgotten. They believed you had replaced them emotionally. But now they have learned that you were healing quietly, not because you stopped caring, but because continuing to care in the same way was destroying your peace. There is a difference between leaving because you no longer love someone and stepping away because loving them has become unbearable. Your soulmate finally understands that difference. And it is keeping them awake. They are imagining the conversations they should have had with you. They are thinking about the words they withheld. They are remembering how many times they almost reached out, then convinced themselves not to. They are asking whether your heart still has space for the truth they were once too afraid to speak. But do not confuse their pain with your responsibility. You are not being called to rescue them from the consequences of what they failed to understand. You are not being asked to abandon your healing just because they have finally entered their season of realization. Their hurt is part of their awakening. It is teaching them what your silence could not. You have already carried enough. Heaven is not revealing this so you will run backward. Heaven is revealing it so you will understand that your truth did not remain hidden forever. The love you gave was seen. The loyalty you showed was recorded in the unseen. The nights you cried without explanation were not forgotten. The moments you chose grace over retaliation were not wasted. Your soulmate may only now be discovering what heaven has always known about you. You loved sincerely. You tried honestly. You endured quietly. And when your spirit could no longer survive the uncertainty, you chose peace. That choice was not betrayal. It was restoration. Yet your soulmate is struggling to accept that the version of you they had access to may no longer be waiting in the same place. They sense that something has changed within you. Your energy is no longer reaching for what refuses to reach back. Your soul has begun withdrawing from cycles that once consumed you. You are becoming less willing to explain your worth to people who benefit from pretending not to see it. They can feel this change. Even from a distance, they know you are not the same. And this is where their hurt becomes fear. They are afraid that while they were learning how much you mattered, you were learning how to live without them. They are afraid that the heart they once assumed would remain open has finally learned discernment. They are afraid that the next time they see you, your eyes will still be kind, but they will no longer be waiting. There is nothing cruel about this. Growth often looks like distance to those who were comfortable with your availability. Your soulmate is now realizing that they mistook your patience for permanence. They thought your love would continue making room for their uncertainty. They believed your tenderness had no limit. They did not understand that even the deepest heart must eventually protect itself. You reached that point quietly. There was no dramatic announcement. No final demand. No public ending. Something simply changed within you. A door in your spirit began to close, not from hatred, but from exhaustion. You stopped fighting to be understood. You stopped trying to prove that your feelings were real. You stopped carrying conversations that required two people. And when you stopped, the silence became loud enough for them to hear. Now every unanswered question is returning to them. Did you cry because of them? Did you blame yourself? Did you believe you were not enough? Did their inconsistency reopen old wounds you never told them about? Did you wait for a message that never arrived? Did you stare at your screen, wondering whether reaching out one more time would bring relief or more disappointment? They are beginning to understand the answer. Yes, there were moments when their absence hurt you more than you admitted. Yes, there were nights when you questioned whether the connection had been real. Yes, there were days when you tried to appear unaffected because you did not want anyone to see how deeply one person had entered your heart. But the greatest truth they learned was not simply that you suffered. It was why you never told them the full depth of it. You were afraid that if you revealed how much they mattered, they would gain the power to hurt you more. You had already experienced what it felt like to give someone your truth and watch them handle it carelessly. So you offered pieces. A little vulnerability. A little hope. A little honesty. You waited to see whether they would treat those pieces gently. Sometimes they did. Sometimes they did not. And each time they failed, you pulled another part of yourself back. They thought you were becoming distant. In reality, you were responding to what they had shown you. This realization is tearing down the excuses they once used to avoid accountability. They can no longer say they did not know you cared. They can no longer pretend your silence made everything unclear. They can no longer hide behind timing, confusion, or fear. The truth has brought them to a place where they must decide who they are going to become. Will they remain the person who understands only after something precious begins to disappear? Or will they finally become someone brave enough to speak before silence makes the choice for them? This decision is forming right now. There is a conversation happening inside their heart. One voice tells them to leave things as they are, to protect their pride, to avoid the risk of rejection. Another voice keeps repeating your name in the quiet. It reminds them that some connections do not return in the same form once neglected. It tells them that the fear of speaking is smaller than the regret of never being honest. They are standing between those voices. And heaven is allowing the pressure to increase. Not to punish them, but to awaken them. They need to understand that love without courage becomes a collection of almost moments. Almost spoken. Almost chosen. Almost lived. You were not created to become someone's lifelong what if. You were not created to remain hidden in the corner of a heart that refuses to make room for you in real life. Your soulmate now sees the danger of waiting. They have begun imagining a future in which someone else recognizes what they failed to honor. Someone else notices the softness behind your strength. Someone else asks the questions they avoided. Someone else gives you the safety you once hoped to find with them. That thought has shaken them. But this is not a message of jealousy. It is a message of truth. What is neglected does not remain untouched forever. Life continues. Hearts heal. Doors shift. People learn to receive from new places what they once begged for in old ones. Your soulmate understands this now. And because they understand it, something unexpected has happened. They have begun preparing to speak. Not casually. Not with empty words. Not with another half-confession that leaves you carrying the meaning. They are trying to gather the courage to reveal something they have hidden for a long time. Something connected to the exact moment they first realized their feelings for you were no longer ordinary. They have never told you what happened that day. They have never told you what they felt after one specific conversation. They have never explained why they became distant just when the connection seemed to deepen. You thought their distance meant they lost interest. But the truth is more complicated. They became afraid. not of you. Of what loving you would require them to face within themselves. You reflected a kind of sincerity they were not ready to match. You made them feel seen in places they had spent years hiding. Around you, their usual defenses did not work. Your presence reached beyond the version of themselves they showed everyone else. And that terrified them. Because once someone sees the real you, you can no longer pretend that surface-level affection is enough. Your soulmate knew that being close to you would require honesty. It would require consistency. It would require them to confront patterns they had carried for years. They felt the possibility of something life-changing, but instead of stepping forward, they retreated into what was familiar. Now they know what that retreat cost. They are hurt because they learned you interpreted their fear as a statement about your worth. That was never what they wanted. But intentions do not erase impact. Their silence made you question yourself. Their inconsistency made you doubt the connection. Their emotional retreat made you wonder whether you had imagined everything. And while they were trying to escape their own vulnerability, you were left carrying the consequences. This is the truth that has wounded them most. You blamed yourself for a battle that was happening inside them. You thought you were too much. You thought your feelings had frightened them because something was wrong with you. You thought perhaps you had misread the signs, misunderstood the bond, or expected more than they were willing to give. But the truth is that they felt more than they knew how to handle. They were not indifferent. They were overwhelmed. And now, after learning what their silence made you believe, they can no longer remain comfortable in hiding. Something is approaching. A choice. A confession. A moment when avoidance will no longer feel possible. But before that moment arrives, there is one more truth you must understand. Their hurt does not automatically mean they are ready. Feeling regret is not the same as becoming responsible. Missing you is not the same as knowing how to love you. Understanding your pain is not the same as having the maturity to stop repeating it. Heaven does not want you to be moved only by their emotion. You must look for transformation. Words can be beautiful. Tears can be sincere. Regret can be real. But the love meant for you will not ask you to ignore patterns simply because the apology sounds convincing. What belongs in your future must be able to meet the version of you that emerged from the pain. You have changed. You are no longer willing to carry uncertainty in the name of connection. You are no longer willing to accept hidden love when your heart requires visible care. You are no longer willing to confuse intensity with commitment. Your soulmate will have to meet you in truth. And somewhere inside them, they know this. That is why they are not only preparing words. They are preparing to reveal what they have already done, something you do not know about yet. A decision made after they learned the truth about you. A decision that shocked someone close to them. A decision that may explain why their energy has felt unusually near, even though no message has appeared. They have taken a step. A real one. But they are afraid you may misunderstand it. They are afraid the timing will look wrong. They are afraid you will believe it is only another temporary reaction. They are afraid they waited until your heart had already closed. Yet the step has been taken. And the person who witnessed it asked them one question that left them completely silent. If this person truly means that much to you, why are they still unaware? Your soulmate had no answer. Because the answer would require them to admit the truth they have avoided for too long. They have loved you in silence. They have missed you behind pride. They have imagined returning while pretending they had moved on. And now, after learning what you endured, they are facing a final choice. But what they decide next depends on a secret connected to your last conversation, a detail you believed they had forgotten, a sentence you said quietly, and a promise they made to themselves the moment they heard it. That promise is about to change everything.